Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of StarJump Shipyard. I am StarJump Grim. For those that don't know me, if this is your first time here, welcome. Shipyard is a show that I typically do on Tuesdays. I've been canceling it the last few Tuesdays because of work conflicts, but here we are. We try to do it on Tuesday. And try to hang out for a bit, talk about Star Citizen spaceships, all that kind of good stuff. I do have a few issues with chat not showing up in OBS right now, but that's okay. I have a solution to solve that for the moment. So thank you all for coming over and hanging out for a little bit. See a lot of familiar names in chat. Feather's giving me the 5x5. I do appreciate that as well. How's everybody doing? We're the week before the start of IAE. So it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be a very, very quiet week, or it's going to be a very exciting week with more leaks popping out. So it kind of a little bit depends. In years past, we've had weeks in the leading up to an IAE event where a lot of leaks come out, a lot of new ship information, stuff like that. Am I echoing? Let me see. Do I have? Oh, yep, I have audio on. Sorry. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, audio issue. I don't know why I'm having so many setup issues tonight. Or today. There's a lot of a lot of weird issues happening with my stream setup this morning. I'm not 100% sure why that is. But we're gonna push through and hopefully it gets better. Let me know if that's better now, chat. Is that better? Everyone's saying it's better? Okay, cool. Again, very strange. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I'm getting that kind of weird stuff happening where I stream multiple times a week, everything's fine, and then I'll go to stream the next day and all my setup is completely messed up and problematic. So let's see here. Arkralf says, was watching your video with Mr. Tomato. Yes, I was on Space Tomato's podcast the other day, his launch sequence podcast. We talked about the ships of IAE, or at least what we knew about them, and it was a lot of fun. I've been on Space Tomato's show a few times now. I think that was my third or fourth episode. He was one of the podcasts I went on a long time ago to talk about the launch of Fleet Viewer back when we were, again, originally launching that. So always kind of cool to go back and see Space and see how he's doing and all that kind of good stuff. But again, nice to see everybody here. I hope you're all having a great day. I'm going to run through some of our normal top of show stuff. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to switch over to remind everybody we have the Perseus giveaway going on right now. So if an RSI Perseus is something you have been hoping to get in your hangar, don't want to drop the coin on one or don't have one in buyback or what have you, we're going to be giving one away. We're going to give it away on December 2nd. Okay, so if we go over to our schedule here, that means we're going to give it away on the day before the final day of IAE. Okay, the day before the final day of IAE. So it's going to be really cool. It's obviously an important, exciting ship coming to the verse. Big multi-crew gunboat. I know a lot of people are excited about it. Currently, I think the war bond price is $675, $625, $675, something like that. It's probably going to go up another $100 at the very least. So it's going to go up in price. It's going to go up in price, and we are giving one away. I also wouldn't doubt that probably next week we're going to be getting a sort of behind the ships look at it. So CIG hasn't announced anything in terms of any sort of behind the ship shows, but I would imagine we're going to get some sort of first look at it next week. So either way, it's exciting. I hope you all are as excited about it as I am. I got another sort of Perseus announcement to talk about here in a minute. But yes, we do have the giveaway going on. If you want to enter that, it is very easy to do. All you got to do is go to the Gleam link that I just pinned in chat. Okay, just go to the Gleam link that I just pinned in chat. For those of you over on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and pin that into chat right now. To the top of chat. I wish I could pin chats in Twitch, but I don't think I can. Or can I? Oh, yes, I can. Okay, cool. I pinned that. Okay, cool. There it is. Let me set the time for that. We'll do 150 minutes. And there we go. Cool. Okay, good. That should be working now. So I have both of those linked pinned to the top of chats. Okay, so if you're interested in that giveaway, go to those links. There's multiple ways to enter. And again, I really appreciate it. I am looking at ways to maybe incentivize people watching on either YouTube or Twitch, because I know a lot of you are coming pretty regularly to watch the live streams, hang out, all that kind of good stuff. I do want to make sure there's some incentivizing going on there, because again, you all are very loyal and are showing up time and time again for the stream. So I'm looking at a few ways to give you all a little bit of a bonus to your ticket count for the giveaways. Okay. So if you come often, stay for the streams, all that kind of good stuff, it's very, very possible you will get some sort of built-in, you know, 2%, 3% bonus to your tickets. Okay. I am looking at that right now. I do have a website that tracks who all is coming to hang out for an episode, so I can kind of see what are you know, the regulars apparently, you know, or the regulars that are showing up for streams. So I'm doing that automatically, and this is something that I'm working on. More info on that soon. Again, we got some time. The giveaway goes till December 2nd. Archeroff says, for me, this needs to be on YouTube because Twitch is blocked here. Yeah. Twitch is blocked in certain areas for sure. I know YouTube has issues in certain areas. The whole reason I dual stream is so that it can get it out to the most amount of people. Shepard is Commander resubscribed with Prime. Appreciate that very much. Okay, so let's go ahead to Midfield Marauder says, do we have to chat to be counted, or does it track lurkers? It tracks lurkers too. It tracks anyone in chat. Anyone who comes in chat and stays, and then essentially the website I have tracks how long they stay in the channel. So for example, if you watch all 2 hours, great, right? It's going to say that you watched all 2 hours of the stream. If you stay for 5 minutes, it'll track that too. I appreciate anybody coming to the streams. I think if you stay the full show, maybe I'll try to find a way, like maybe you get a 2% bonus to your ticket entries. If you stay for 5 minutes of the show, maybe you get none or 1%, whatever. But I'm looking at ways to kind of do that. Before I formally announce that I'm doing that, I want to test the platform that I'm using. It's part of Gleam.io's platform, and it's something I'm testing right now. So I haven't fully integrated into this giveaway yet. But we'll see. We'll see. Why are we tracking? For possible bonus entries into the Perseus giveaway. So essentially, the longer you watch the channel, the more bonus entries you're going to get. Again, that's not turned on yet. I'm thinking about turning it on. I'm doing some testing though. VMXEO in chat. Nice to see a VM. Today, by the way, everyone, if it wasn't obvious, we are doing the, let me actually get to it. Today's show is we are doing part 2 of the Lost Concepts of Star Citizen. I know VMXEO walked through part 1 with me. That was a lot of fun. VM, if you're wanting to chat part 2, feel free to jump in chat. You're always welcome. Just let me know you're in there, but you're always welcome if you want to pop in voice, of course. No worries there. And I see Trispone. By the way, everyone, Trispone is in chat. Make sure you go give Trispone's channel on YouTube a look. He does some really cool ship related stuff like myself. He's a very ship focused creator. So if you love starships, spaceships, all that stuff, make sure you go check out Trispone's channel. If you're a fan of the Ironclad, make sure you go check out Trispone's channel. He's been doing a ton of work building out the Ironclad and doing an absolutely fantastic job with him. I did a really cool video with him. I'm going to link that here actually because it's cool and I had a good time doing it. And I want to give Trist a little love here. Let's see, where is it? Where is that video? Here it is. All right, I found it. Here it is. I'm going to put a video in chat. Hopefully you all will go check it out soon. This is a video that Trist invited me on to talk about the Drake Kraken. It was a lot of fun. So go check that video out. It's a lot of fun. So today we're going to be talking about the Lost Concepts of Star Citizen. This is sort of the part 2 of our original discussion on this topic. Okay, we got through a number of them last show, but I couldn't get through all of it. Here's the funny thing: our first episode has turned out to be one of my more popular videos recently, and I got a lot of feedback from people saying that they really, really enjoyed taking a look at some of these old concepts because a lot of them they had never seen before. So yeah. Rabbit says, get Trispone in voice chat. He's great. Yes, I have a list of episodes, of StarJump Station episodes I want to do with various people, and Trispone is on that list. I do know that my producer Art does have... Sorry, he does have that list, and Trispone is someone we're going to be reaching out to very, very soon. Trist is one of my favorite dudes and does a lot of great Star Citizen content. So, oh, and Trist, if you're still watching in chat, I can't talk today. I did reach out to a certain ship or a certain Star Citizen developer, and we were sort of talking about content creators and stuff like that. And they mentioned you as one of their favorite people to watch. So there you go. Got a few fans at CIG. So there you go. Okay, last thing I wanted to go over real quick. Last year at Invictus, not this most recent Invictus, but the one before, some of you, actually, let me pause that for a minute. Mostly Beef says, Grim, you should be a Twitch partner by now, yeah? Can I take a second and talk about that topic real quick? Because I would love to talk about that for a second. So, thanks to you all, I am very, very close to being qualified for Twitch partnership. As a matter of fact, I think I'm 3 streams away, where as long as I have 75 average viewers, I think I'm 3 streams away from qualifying for partnership. The last 60 days, we've been absolutely killing it on content and people showing up. So that's fantastic. Going for partner was not something I was trying or attempting at all. But yeah, we are currently I'm just checking the analytics again here. We are currently 3 streams away from hitting partner, as long as we can get 75 average viewers per episode. So if you're over on YouTube right now, okay, and you don't mind opening up Twitch as well and just keeping that open behind your YouTube window, that would be amazing. Just turn it on and hitting mute. If you don't mind doing that, that would be incredible. Again, just sometimes little things like that can go a long ways. But yeah, if you're over on YouTube, and I totally understand watching things on YouTube, I primarily watch things on YouTube. So my YouTube community, I love y'all. Thank y'all for showing out and keeping YouTube full. But if you have an extra browser window and a Twitch account and don't mind going to that and just muting it, putting it behind your YouTube window or whatever, I really appreciate that. I really, really do. We're, again, only 3 streams away from hitting Twitch partner. And it's not me hitting Twitch partner. Those of you know, I am unmonetized. I don't monetize YouTube. I don't monetize Twitch in any way other than if you all just want to donate to what I do. But thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for jumping over. I appreciate it. All doing your part. Don't worry. You don't have to leave YouTube. I love my YouTube group. The YouTube numbers have been stupid high, like crazy high. We had a stream the other day with 400 some odd people in it, which is just incredible. So I try to keep everything unmonetized for you all so that you're not dealing with that kind of crap. And, so getting to partner would certainly help. And it wasn't something I was trying for. It's just through you all supporting me. So huge thank you. If you see here, we've already jumped up to 87 viewers on Twitch, which is incredible. 113 watching on YouTube. So thank you very, very much. I appreciate you all. One more thing. Let's go back to what I was talking about. I love you all, by the way. It's an awesome community. I love the StarJump community in general. Incredible community. Last year at IAE, some of you will remember, Invictus. Last year at Invictus, some of you will remember when the Polaris was first shown, I had a special Invictus Polaris poster. Okay. And then at IAE later that year, I did a special, and actually VMXEO created the artwork for both of these. We did a special poster for the Aegis Idris. It was sort of a cutaway poster. And I know some of you remember that. If you don't, I can pull that up real quick. But they were sort of special one-off posters. I didn't make a lot of them. They weren't for everyone. Here's the Idris poster, by the way. They weren't for everybody. They were sort of meant to celebrate. Look at that. Look how close you can get on that. Holy moly. They weren't meant for everybody. They were special posters meant to celebrate the release of certain ships. Okay. Well, I wanted to announce here that I am going to be doing another one of these. I'm going to be doing another one of these for this IAE. Now, what I'm about to show you is not the final art. We're going to replace that with whatever the final render, the final in-game model of the Perseus is. But we're going to be, I'm going to be giving away a special Perseus poster. This is just sort of a mock-up, okay? The artwork of the Perseus there is going to be replaced with whatever the final render is. That'll be courtesy of VMXEO, because VMXEO is amazing. Oh, and VMXEO just got a gifted tier 1 sub from Rafe. Rafe, salute to you, buddy. Thank you very much. Appreciate that support. If any of you use STARJUMP Fleet Viewer, VMXEO right down in chat is a big reason it exists at all. So anyway, I know VM is eager to get the newest Perseus model so we can start getting the renders done for that for Fleet Viewer, but we'll replace this visual of the Perseus with whatever the final render is, and this will be a poster that I do a special giveaway on during IAE. I'm not sure which day. I might do it on RSI Day. I'm thinking about doing it on RSI Day. We'll obviously do a stream on RSI Day. Big day, obviously. We're probably going to get the Perseus and the Salvation. So yeah, this is something I'll be giving away more info on that soon if you're a fan of the posters. Okay. Last, before we jump into the concepts, I know everyone's eager to get that, and I'm sorry I've had so many top of show announcements. Here's the IAE schedule for next week. This Thursday, I do plan on doing another stream. It'll be probably a STARJUMP Station stream or a Shipyard stream, just depends. We'll see who's going to be on that with me. But going into next week, I have plenty planned. I'm going to definitely do an RSI stream for RSI Day. I will then be going on vacation for pretty much the entirety of IAE. However, here's the good news. My incredible, amazing wife, someone clipped that for me, by the way. My incredible, amazing wife has told me that I can bring my mobile stream setup, which includes my laptop, some monitors, and all the goodies, with us to where we're going. So during IAE, I'm going to be able to do streams on the big days. So on Drake Day, on Kruger Day, on Great Cat Day, all the days that we're getting those new ships, I will be doing streams. We'll be doing all the giveaways. We'll be doing all of our normal stuff. So thanks to Mrs. Grimm, my amazing, lovely wife, you will all not see a dip in content. We're going to keep plugging through all the way through IAE. Okay. All right. So we've talked about the Perseus giveaway. We've talked about IAE plans. It is time to get to concept ships. What do you all say? Let me bring up the concept window. Now, if you all remember, we made it through a lot of ships last week. We did make it through a lot of ships. I think the last ships we looked at were possibly the Hammerhead, and a few others, but I want to kind of continue the journey, and that is looking at let's see, where we looked at Hammerhead. I remember talking about that. We looked at Hawk. And we started to look at the Hercules. If you remember, the Hercules was these images here. Let me go ahead and get the share window up for the concept ships. If you remember the Hercules, we had a lot of ships like this, a lot of crazy designs here. Again, if you're wondering where these are from Jump Point or Jump Point issues or the Vault, the subscriber Vault. I don't know if I'm allowed to share them, but I'm sharing them. But some really, really cool designs. We went through a lot of ships last week, including ships like, what all did we go through? We went through the 100 series, the 400 series. Origin had a lot of really, really cool designs that I would love for CIG to revisit. We looked at the Apollo. We looked at the crazy Argo SRV stuff. We looked at Drake Gollum stuff. We just had our Gollum Ox stream just the other day. Again, one of the ships that does look like it's coming at IAE is the Gollum Ox, which is a cargo variant of the Gollum. Again, we looked at that at length. You can see that here in these images. Let me zoom in. You can see sort of the cargo variant of the Gollum right here. So that is something we talked about. Again, we covered a lot. Okay, so now we're going to continue that journey. And today what we're going to do is we are going to start with the Hurricane. That is going to be the ship we start with today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our first images here. These are a little dark and shady, so sorry about that. I meant to brighten these up. But this is some early design work on the Anvil Hurricane. And I really wanted to pull these up because, oh my God, do I love these. And I would love for this to be a heavy fighter variant. So I know on the heavy fighter side from Anvil, we have the F8 Lightning and we have the Hurricane. I would love for CIG to release something like this as sort of a militia-focused heavy combat ship or heavy fighter, I guess, classification ship. So obviously we have the F8, we have the Hurricane, very UEE-focused ships with military contracts. It'd be great if Anvil came out with a ship that was more targeting the militia market. That is sort of dominated by, you know, ships or manufacturers like Drake and stuff like that. I would love for this to be that ship because it does, first off, it looks really cool, but also it's got a little bit of like design flair applied to it that you wouldn't think would go maybe to the military market, but a little bit of design flair applied to it that could really appeal to sort of a commercial market, right? A civilian market. So I think of, you know, something that's targeted for the militia market could be really, really cool. And honestly, I hope CIG starts doing more of that type of stuff where they allow manufacturers to sort of step outside their bread and butter lines. I'm going to move to another image here in the, here's some other earlier variants of the Hurricane. I actually think the Hurricane would have looked better with these additional wings on the front. I don't know what you all think. Do you have some questions here? We'll hit as we go here. It says, Arkwell says, do you think that the Gattac Hollow Viewer, do you think that in the Gattac Hollow Viewer we can get an updated Raylan or maybe something else like the hint on Squadron 42? So I'm thinking that we'll get an updated Raylan model. I think there has been work done to the Raylan. I think it's probably going into or in active production as we speak. I think we'll get an updated Raylan model. Here's what I'll say about that. If the Raylan has had a model update that is significant, then I might redo it for Fleet Viewer while we wait on the Game Ready model. If the model is not significantly changed and only changed in minor ways, we'll probably just keep the model we have in Fleet Viewer until the final model comes out. Next question from Sagenis21 says, question, instead of a variant, since some of these are unused concepts, couldn't they just be a new ship? Like some of the designs are very different. Yeah, 100%. And that's sort of what we're saying here, is that there's enough difference in some of these old concepts that you could come up with a completely new type of ship, maybe a new type of variant of that ship, etc. I really love the robustness of this. I think that it would be cool if we had a so we have, here's another thing, just put Anvil manufacturer aside for a minute. We have a ship class that's obviously pretty popular in game right now, which is sort of the gunship. So think Paladin, think Redeemer. I think we need more ships from other manufacturers in that size category. I'm not saying that's what this is, but I would love to see that class of ship from other manufacturers. An alien manufacturer, Drake, I think would make a really cool gunship, maybe with more guns, but less survivable. I could see other manufacturers kind of leaning into that. I think that could be really cool. I think RSI would maybe want to get into that sort of mini gunship role. I mean, obviously they got the Perseus, but something more scaled down, that 55, 60 meter range, I think would be really, really cool. Okay. And by the way, everyone, I will try to catch questions. I don't have the question bot running today. We're hoping that within a couple weeks, that is more of a permanent thing. So just bear with me on that. But again, going through some more images here. I mean, check this out. VM, I don't know if you're still in chat, but tell me, here's the thing. all this is subjective. So what I'm going to say right now, everybody, is a very subjective thing. Okay. And by the way, thank you for the follows, everyone. Is a very subjective thing. What one person likes, another person may not like. But I'll say this right now. I love the look of this even more than the Hurricane that we have. Even more than the Hurricane that we have. I don't know what you all think. But I do sometimes wonder if CIG goes back to these old designs for either inspiration or even finding out maybe where they shouldn't go with a design on a ship. Dolac says Anvil Guardian. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting comparison there too. We have this almost looks like the Anvil competitor to like the Vanguard series, right? I say Guardian, I meant Vanguard series, right? But really cool. I love the look of that one. That is the Hurricane examples. Let's go to the next ship on the list here, and that is a fan favorite here. We're going to talk about it. You know we have to. We're now going to talk about the Drake Kraken. We talked a little bit about this previously on the last episode. For those that like the Drake Kraken, and I know you all are out there, the Drake Kraken is the big aircraft carrier looking ship. You've probably seen it. As a matter of fact, if you haven't seen it, let's go ahead and pull it up, because I know we do have some new people here. Let me grab the link for it here. Okay, here we go. Let me drag it up. So the Drake Kraken is the big aircraft carrier looking ship. You've probably seen this before. No big mystery here. This is 100% a Star Citizen fan favorite ship right here. It is in active production. I think one of the best things about the Kraken is the giant aircraft carrier vibe. I think most of you would agree with that, right? By the way, thank you for the subscriptions on YouTube. I am trying to get the YouTube subscription numbers up, so thank you very much for that support. But it is the big Drake aircraft carrier that we all know and love. We've seen it in a lot of Star Citizen commercials, etc. But a lot of people do not know where the Kraken started. Okay, this is where the Kraken started. Okay, and we're going to talk. You can see right here, Drake Kraken early concept explorations. Okay. Oh, and actually, I should point out, let me pull up one other thing in relation to this that may be interesting to all of you. Let me pull it up here. We did an episode of STARJUMP Station way back in the day with ship designer Gavin Rothery, okay? I will pull that up real quick here so you can see. This is it here. We did a really great talk with Gavin Rothery. You can see him here. Gavin Rothery is the designer of the Drake Kraken, and I think has designed more Star Citizen ships than pretty much anyone. So these early concepts here that you're seeing is from the mind of Gavin Rothery, and very, very different than what we know of the Kraken that we have today. It's like a very different design. And there's a number of them. There are some familiar elements. I pointed out this sort of top piece here. If you take this top piece and flip it 180 degrees, it still exists on the current Kraken, right? We'll go to another image here. There is an image of it from the side view. Okay, you can see how this was going to be laid out. It has what looks to be a door that can open here, possibly a top hanger with the cargo area over here. The command area over here, or maybe this is the command area. I don't know if that was fully fleshed out, but you can see here a much different sort of look and feel to this concept. Now this has got the singular piece that juts out here up front, and it's got this bottom sort of greeble piece that essentially for a turret. We're going to see some more designs where they doubled up on these long superstructure pieces. Okay, we're going to keep going here. There it is from another angle. You can see the big cargo doors down here that open and then allow ships to fly in and out. So this is back, I think, when it had more of an internal sort of ship carrying layout similar to the Idris. If I zoom down here, though, you'll see it's got a couple Buccaneers sticking out. This is back when it still had that underslung internal hangar component that our current Kraken has. Keep going here. Here's the rear of the ship. Obviously much more resembling the rear of an ironclad or the rear of a caterpillar. So it's got, it's got a lot more of that sort of DNA coming through on it. Continuing on here, there is the same concept, but where they've doubled up on these sort of long hull pieces, these long superstructure pieces. Okay, obviously there's mounting here. If you put a big box in the middle of this, you get very similar to the ironclad. Okay, Kevin Rothery also designed the ironclad, so you can see where those that design language is sort of crossing over a lot between those designs. You can see here a Cutlass Black sitting on the deck here, so it did have an external deck. Plus, you can see the Buccaneers on the side here. It had the internal hangars and enough room on top for at least one, maybe two ships, But again, early concept work on the Kraken. Continuing on. Here is some underneath visuals. Now, this was a completely different layout that they were messing with on over here, but I think the one to pay attention to is right here. And again, it's funny how you'll see when they're doing this early kit bashing work, you'll see where they take parts and pieces from other Drake ships. So if you look at this, what does this look like to you all? It looks like an upside down command module that's been stretched way out. And you can see they kind of took the windows away, right? They took the windows away because they're just using it as geometry at this point. They know they're going to change it in more substantial ways in the future. But if you go back to this image, you can see we had the Caterpillar up top, the Cutlass up top, the two Buccaneers on the side. So one Cutlass up top, two Buccaneers on the side. On the next image, there's our two Buccaneers. But if you look, we also have an internal hangar underneath that can store ships as well. So I think the issue here with this concept is this concept would be able to carry one medium ship, so the Cutlass Black, so one of those, but then be able to carry a number of smaller, extra smaller, small ships internally, right? And there the Kraken just went by. Thank you very much for the follows, everyone. Really appreciate it. Tay just got a stretch for me, so I just stretched it out. Thank you very much, Tay. Appreciate that. Stand by a minute here, everybody. So obviously a very, very different look and feel to the Kraken back then. And I believe the original art director for Star Citizen, before we had Ben Curtis being Paul Jones, Paul once said, I think, that he really, really liked some of these other concepts. And it was something they originally tried to push as options for the Kraken. Ultimately, that sort of comes down to Chris Roberts, and Chris Roberts leaned more towards the aircraft carrier look of the Kraken that we all know now. Now, I will say that I think that was a good decision. The whole reason I like the Kraken is because it looks like a giant aircraft carrier, right? It's the G.I. Joe USS Flag aircraft carrier, right? So I think ultimately I think that was a good decision, right? That was a good decision. But it is interesting seeing these other designs. Here's another angle of it here. Going a little bit further, here's the far starboard side of the ship. Again, interesting engine placement. I love the overall look of this ship. I just don't think it would have made a very good carrier in the long run, only because it has so many like weird areas that the ships have to come in and out of. I think the current design of the Kraken simplifies how ships get onto and off of the ship for operations and stuff, and makes the current Kraken a lot more viable for industrial orgs or orgs that do more than just straight up combat, right? But again, I think there's some really cool design characteristics of this. I really do think that. I would love for CIG to start doing more stuff like this, like these big antenna arrays. CIG really doesn't do a lot of that stuff anymore. A little bit maybe, but not a lot of it. I would love for CIG just to do more superfluous design elements that really change the contours of these ships that are purely, fantasy driven, right? So putting these big radar antenna here, or maybe those are big solar panels. I don't know what they are, but I don't know. I wish they would lean into that a little bit more. Another angle here, again, you can see the two side hangars. This would have been kind of weird being so close to the engine. You can see one landing pad up here for a medium ship, and then obviously we have the internals underneath. Here's a front-on view of that. Again, internal hangars over here on the side, big internal hangar here in the front. Again, not sure where the ship is being controlled from, one of these two locations, but then a medium ship sitting here on the top. More imagery there. This is of the dual version. So this was the singular long superstructure version, and then this one is the dual. You can see that here. Again, really odd engine placement on there. You got two engines over here, two under here, the main engine's in the back, so kind of interesting. Grabbing a couple questions here, knock a couple questions off here. Jano says, do you think we'll ever see a large or capital ship with an EMP? I think we will at some point see a large capital ship that focuses on just electronic warfare in general. And I think that ship will most likely have EMP or quantum snaring capabilities. And specifically, the ship will be tuned to prevent other capitals from entering or leaving the area. I think that's what it's going to be. As a matter of fact, CIG maybe even will tweak it a bit where smaller ships are able to sort of scoot by that capital ship's, quantum dampening or EMP capabilities. Maybe it doesn't affect the smaller ships, but maybe it affects primarily large and capitals. We'll see how they balance something like that, but I absolutely think we'll see a capital version of that at some point. Here's the thing, capital ships do sell, and as long as they sell, CIG is going to make gameplay loop versions of that ship size. So we're going to get a capital refining ship. We're going to get a capital miner in the Orion. We're going to get a capital salvager, which I guess you could say the reclaimer is, but we're going to get a proper capital salvage. I think we're going to get we have capital cargo ships already, obviously with the D and E, hull D and E coming out. And then other ships like I guess you could consider the Kraken a capital cargo ship as well. But we're going to see capital ships in all those categories. Mando Tar says, yeah, what about the Orion? Yep, 100%. That is a capital mining ship. So, question from Rabbit07 says, if we see an update to the Raylan, do you expect a medium Gatak ship in the works too? Something that would help build out their asset library and nail down the design style? Yes. No, well, actually, normally I say yes. With it being an alien ship, I'm not 100% sure. CIG sometimes doesn't build out the whole line of, doesn't build out smaller ships when they're working on an alien ship, but we also haven't seen any large medium or large alien ships yet, right? We've gotten mostly small and maybe medium. I forget if I guess the Banu Defender and the Santaki I are probably mediums. Maybe Defender's heavy. I can't remember. But either way, we haven't seen many alien large ships come to the game yet, if any. I know there's probably some for Squadrons, so we don't really know how CIG is going to leverage that work, right? Hudson Ox says, STARJUMP Graham, capital salvager bigger than the Reclaimer, which was already a capital ship. So there's been some back and forth on this. I do consider the Reclaimer is the Defender a light fighter? Really? I forgot about that. I consider the Reclaimer a capital salvage ship. I do. But I actually think we're going to get a capital salvage ship on in the size regime of the Orion. So I think we're going to get a capital salvager in that 250 meter range eventually. So, getting up to like Idris, Kraken, maybe even bigger size. I think that is something that's going to happen. Because here's the thing. Don't think of this as a future where the Reclaimer is salvaging a Polaris. Think of a future where we need to salvage a Bengal, right? You may want bigger ships to handle that, right? So, question here from Mandatar is, when CIG finally finished making the Orion and Merchantman? So we don't know when they're going to move on to those ships, obviously. That the Orion, we've heard, is a post-Star Citizen 1.0 ship. I still think that's probably the case, but I also would not get too wrapped up in that. CIG said a lot of things before on when they're releasing certain ships or when they're going to work on certain ships, only to change that through the course of game development. So never say never. I know everyone will tell you, oh, they've said the Orion won't go into development until after 1.0. They could put the Orion into development next week for all we know. I mean, had you have asked me last year if the Pioneer was going into active development, I would have told you you're crazy and that it's going to be 10 years before that ship's in development. But the Pioneer is in active development. You could say the same about the Drake Kraken. A lot of people said the Kraken was going to be years away, and now it's in active development. So you never know. The CIG said they weren't going to release the Idris until Squadron 42 was released. They released the Idris already. Same about the F-8C. So again, do not trust what has been said by the community or even CIG all that much. Things change, plans change. And if CIG wants to put the Orion in development, they'll put it in development. Now, on the subject of the Banu Merchantman, we'll see that go into develop. In my opinion, we'll see that go into development most likely end of next year. John Cruz said that it's possible it could go into development into next year. I personally don't think he would have said that unless he was very, very strongly considering it. He knows that ship is sort of a meme generator at that point. John is an incredibly smart dude. He's not just going to say that willy-nilly without plans to try to get it into production. Doesn't mean he's going to get it in production, but he's going to try to, right? So I think the Banu Merchantman could be going into production in 2026, which would honestly mean it's probably an end-of-year 2027 ship. Okay. One more question here. Mostly Beef says, question, you got any Zeus suit concepts in your list? I don't think so. We might have some in a bit, though. I forget what all I have in the list here, but thank you, Viper, for the follow. Appreciate it. Terrace, thank you for the follow. We've had a lot of great follows on Twitch. Thank you very much, everyone. So many people turned out for Twitch and YouTube today. Got 165 watched on YouTube. That is incredible. You YouTube community are not playing around. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we have 121 on Twitch, which is, like I said, helping us towards our goal of getting to partners. So thank you very, very much. Well, I guess it's not a goal, but it's going to happen. One thing I wanted to point out real quick here, if you've ever wanted to support me or support STARJUMP, what we do, the 3D renders, STARJUMP Fleet Viewer, all that stuff, and you did not want to do Patreon because you didn't like the subscription, the way the subscription thing works on Patreon, you can do a one-time donation. If you want to support what I do, feel free. You can do that through the coffee link I just posted in the chat. You absolutely do not have to do that, though. Okay, that is up to you. I've had some people ask if there's any way to do one-time donations, and that is how you do one-time donations. But save your money, save it for IAE. But again, I do appreciate the support, and there's the link. Okay. One more question here. I'm going to move on. What role does everyone think the Drake Clipper is going to fill? I think it's going to be a cargo ship. Yeah. Here's another crazy design on side view of the Drake Kraken. Again, really interesting thing going here on the bottom. Someone has asked me before what these are. Those are those internal hangars. I think there would be doors here, but those are the internal hangars. That's what you're seeing there. And then this top part, the level above that would have been another internal hangar. And then on top here, around here in the middle is where the Cutlass Black would have set. So medium capability for one ship on top. The current Kraken is much better though. We have 2 medium pads on the current Kraken. Again, this is the opposite view showing that we have the 2 internal hangars there on the opposite side as well. Side view here, this is when they were messing with sort of an oversized Caterpillar entrance here that could store stuff. You can see that here. There is a top view of the early Drake Kraken concept. Again, we have the medium pad here and internals spread throughout. Honestly, it looks like you could put another medium pad or a small pad here. Again, there's just a lot of wasted space on the ship. I think that's part of the issue here is it doesn't make a great use of its space. Additional top-down view of one of the Drake Kraken concepts. A really interesting look. Really, really interesting look. They haven't circled back to anything like this for Drake since then, but again, it's a really, really interesting look. Some more images here. You can see the sort of cab of the Caterpillar over here, all elongated, big internal superstructure for carrying ships. You can see where they just sort of chopped a piece of the of the Caterpillar right here. You can see how haphazardly it's just chopped in there. Again, that goes into how kit bashing goes on, right? Hey, it's Icon City in Twitch chat. Icon City, James. Hope you're doing well, everyone. Do not forget, you see the icon right over there. Icon City STARJUMP is a partner. You can use code STARJUMP over there for your discount. Make sure you go to Icon City and check out their stuff. They got really great stuff. You can't see it here, but I have a Stream Deck right here, and I got all my Icon City icons on it. So, no, this is not the Ironclad. This is early concepts for the Drake Kraken. Here's another, again, visual of that, everyone. Again, you can see those little elements here that have made their way into other large Drake ships, Ironclad, Kraken, etc. Again, all because it's from it's from the same designer. It's from Gavin Rothery. So you're going to see a lot of these parts and pieces, exist across all the ships he's touched, right? So some really wild designs here. Okay. All right, that is the Drake Kraken. I know that one's pretty wild. A lot of people, believe it or not, have not seen those, which is interesting. I constantly go back to these old Drake Kraken designs and take a peek at them from time to time. Just really interesting stuff. Mostly Beef says, did Gavin do the Liberator too? I'm not sure if Gavin did the Liberator. I can ask him. I'll ask him if he did the Liberator. Okay, moving on. We're now going to take a look at concepts from the RSI Mantis. Okay. Some early work on the RSI Mantis here. Again, I think some of these were super successful. I've said it quite a bit that I am not the biggest fan of the look of the Mantis. I like aspects of it, but I don't love... It's not like my favorite ship design. Okay, and I know a lot of people love it. If you do love it, rock on. Remember, here's a key thing to remember. Ships are subjective. Ship design in general is subjective. What you like and what I like may not be the same, but both are not right or wrong, okay? But I'm telling you, if this is what the Mantis looked like, I would have bought it in a heartbeat, right? First off, I love how it's got a little bit of that Zeus sort of front end. It almost makes me wonder if when they went and designed the Zeus, if they didn't go back and look at this image. But I love how, I think I love just the overall silhouette of this. It's still very much of the Mantis, but these long pieces here that go back and sort of block out the left and right sides of the ship, to me, give it a little bit of something. They give it a little bit of like hull integrity that the Mantis currently doesn't have for me. Again, just all subjective. The Mantis sort of feels like it's a little delicate on the rear end, like parts could break off kind of easy. And it also looks a little unbalanced to me because the front of the Mantis is so kind of bulbous and then the rear thins out. I like how this is a little bit more balanced from head to tail. There's not one area that looks all that much thicker or bulbous than the other, like the current Mantis. So I don't know. I just kind of like it. You can see the rear end here. It's got like a singular engine back here. Now, I don't think that would have carried over. But imagine if they filled that area out, or that's where they put the EMP or wherever for the Mantis. I think that would have been really interesting. Here's another design of the Mantis. Now tell me this does not look like a sleeker constellation, right? I think this is when they were taking the Mantis and they said, okay, we need to do something that very much feels like it's from the same manufacturer as the Constellation, right? Zelda Freakin' EO, thank you for that subscription. Appreciate all the YouTube subscriptions, by the way, everyone. Really appreciate that. But this is, I think, when they were first designing. Now, this says 890 jump by origin. I think that's just a mistake, by the way, in case you were all wondering. You can see the RSI tag here on the ship. And this, the file name is literally called RSI Mantis Whip. So I think what you're seeing here is they had the Constellation. They said, where can we take the Mantis? So they made the Mantis really pull from the Constellation. I actually really like this. If this was a Connie rework right here, I'd be all about this. I don't know. What do you all think? What does chat think? Ratter HQ says, that looks like a good update for the Connie. I agree. I absolutely agree. Bunker Fist says, I get that baby anytime. I agree with that too. I would 100% buy this. I love the look of it. It's still got the Connie flavor, but it's just a little sleeker, a little bit more like what I consider RSI. I do consider RSI really slick, like high manufacturing, overlapping layers of like paneling, and you can see those panel layering here. I can't talk today. The panel layering is sort of represented here, a little bit here. I just see a lot more of the RSI design language here than I do the current Mantis. Chronic W says, what's up, man? Saw your giveaway and decided to hop and see what you're about. Well, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming over on Twitch, by the way. Yes, we are doing our Perseus giveaway, everyone. Don't forget to enter that. I have the link, the Gleam links for Twitch and YouTube pinned to the top of chat, so make sure you check that out. Thanks for stepping over, Chronic. Appreciate you. We're talking about the lost concept designs for Star Citizen ships today. It's a lot of fun. We're looking back at some of those old designs CIG has shown in the past for ships that just sort of never came to be, right? Or the ship took a drastically different direction. So thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you're doing well. Again, I almost didn't pull this, but one of the reasons I did pull this image here is I wanted to reiterate too, when you go back to some of this old concept work and look at how CIG starts with some of these designs, they start very, very rudimentary. I mean, look at this crazy one here. I mean, up here, again, these are just marker drawings, trying to get basic silhouette, basic looks and feel. Like here, I mean, you can see how simplified some of this stuff starts from time to time. And again, different artists start in different ways. So some artists may start in 3D, some artists may start with marker drawings like this. Here's another interesting design of the Mantis. Again, I also think this one is super interesting and actually pretty successful. You can even see here the interdiction model. They were sort of playing this out. So if I had to think about how far this one went into sort of concepting, I think this was probably a pretty successful design that they iterated on a few times, right? Chronic says, honestly, I love Star Citizen ship designs. I'm kind of new to the game, owned it for a few years, but only recently started playing it a bit more. Well, that's great to hear, Chronic. Yeah, if you, I love Star Citizen ship designs too. For those of you that don't know, you can go to StarJumpFleetViewer.com. Check out all the ships in Star Citizen. Make sure you go over and check that out. That's one of the tools that we created here on StarJump to help people visualize their fleets better. But yeah, we love the ship designs. A lot of people, including other content creators, will say things like, I don't care about ships. I care about the gameplay, or I care about gameplay features, or what have you. I've even heard content creators out there, well-known ones, who are very like, don't like fleet picks and all that kind of stuff. That never made sense to me, because Star Citizen is a game where the game loops, the game features are accessed by the spaceships. The spaceships are the key to unlocking the gameplay loops. So the ships are everything. If you compare this to World of Warcraft, for example, the ships are your character classes. They're the paladin, the druid, the monk, the mage, the warrior. The ship class, the ships and their gameplay roles are our character classes in other MMOs. They are how we access certain types of gameplay. You want to be the healer class in this MMO? Well, you're going to fly an Apollo, right? Or a Galaxy with a medical module, right? So the ships are very, very important. I've always disagreed with those content creators out there who sort of take a piss on the idea of sort of being obsessed with the spaceships in Star Citizen. There's a reason why we're obsessed with them. It's because that's how you access and play the game. It's Star Citizen. We are out amongst the stars, right? Thank you for those follows, everyone. Appreciate it. Got a number of them. Really appreciate that support. But anyways, I really like the look of this. It looks like a mini constellation. I actually still think this is a design they should pull out of mothballs, and maybe it applies to a new ship. The only problem is RSI has a lot of ships in the sub 60-meter range, right? We have the Connies, but we also have the Zeus, and now we have the Apollos, in which we may get an Apollo variant. CIG already has a lot of RSI, and then they have the Meteor and the Mantis. So CIG has a lot of sub 60-meter ships, right? Continuing on, though, a lot of great designs here. Here's an iteration of that where they push these pieces here back, these sort of side canards or whatever you want to call them. And this one, they're up here close to the bridge. And the next design, they've been pushed back. I think this is a really interesting design as well. Again, I love the bridge to these. I think the bridge is one of my favorite parts of these variants. And quick question, Joey Nova says, direct Cuddy Black competition. Yeah, real quick question to everybody. Has a lot of you seen these? Have a lot of you seen these designs yet? I know a lot of people haven't. I'm just curious how visible some of this early concept work is to Star Citizen players. Is a lot of this new to you all? By the way, big shout out to our communities tonight. 170 on YouTube and 127 on Twitch. Unbelievable, amazing. Appreciate you all. Again, everybody, do not forget, if you're just coming in and haven't got in on that Perseus giveaway, make sure you go to the Gleam links pinned to the top of chat or that I just posted down here. Get in on that. If you want to support StarJump with any sort of one-time donation of support, you can here at my coffee link. And then, of course, we have a Patreon as well that you can visit if you're so interested. Again, don't have to support. Just by being here and hanging out, watching the shows, you are supporting. So thank you very much. But if you want to do anything like that, those are the links. Okay, continuing on here, there's a lot of great Mantis stuff. Here is another incredible design. Okay, CIG. If anyone from CIG is watching, I don't know if you are. Maybe we have some CIG lurkers. I'm not sure. But if anyone is watching from CIG, please, can we get this ship made as a medium fighter where we have the Scorpius for our heavy fighter? Can we get an RSI medium fighter that is this ship? Okay. Tay just did a posture check. There we go. Appreciate it. I love the look of this ship. I don't know about this piece here. I don't know what that is, but the rest of it looks really cool. Kiss My W says, Grim, sorry for off topic, but thoughts on the SCU of an Apollo cargo variant? Will it have a knock-on effect on RSI on SCU of RSI ships to be developed? Maybe. I'm still a little, I'll be honest with you, I'm still a little iffy on an Apollo Hermes cargo variant. It does make sense. I still think they're probably going to make it. I really am curious on how they're going to make that not impede on the Connie Taurus or the Zeus CL. I don't know if the Apollo is meant to sort of fit right between there or what the plan is. I just don't know what they're going to do with this Hermes variant. I mean, it makes sense for this Apollo variant to not be just a straight cargo ship, but to do cargo in maybe a different type of way, but we really don't know yet. I don't know. I think it is problematic from an SAU standpoint, though, if it eats into the Connie Taurus or eats into the Zeus CL and it's from the same manufacturer. That would be a little weird for me, but it's not that they couldn't do it. Just more options. So Distroy says, StarJump, I'm going to disagree because ship types are made before any gameplay is even planned. Like with the Reclaimer, they had to try design salvage around a Reclaimer design. Yeah, you're not wrong, especially early on. You know, especially early on, I think that was the case. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Destroy. I think for very modern ships, very new ships, I think CIG is trying to tie into gameplay much closer to the ship's actual design. I think that's why they're kind of moving away from concept ships. I mean, they're still doing concepts, but not externally facing concepts. I think they are trying to close the gap you're talking about, that gap between design and gameplay, right? I think they're trying to close it. I don't know if it'll ever be fully closed because gameplay is always iterating and the ships have to be made and released. But I do think they're trying to shrink that. Yorito, hi guys, how are you doing today? Greetings from Colombia. I hope you're doing well in Colombia. I hope things are well down there. I have a friend that travels down there pretty frequently, and I just shipped a poster to Colombia not too awful long ago. Hope you're doing well. Salute to you. Thanks for hanging out today. Doc Ox says, question, what ship manufacturer mashup slash team up do you think CIG will do next, or one that you're wanting to see? That's a great question. I've thought about this a lot, and I think for me, I think it would be interesting to see CIG do something where two very opposing manufacturers team up for a very specific reason, right? Let me give you an example. Within Star Citizen's lore, within Star Citizen's world, why would Origin or Drake ever need to team up with Origin or Drake, right? Why would those manufacturers maybe ever need to come together? Is there a reason, right? Is there something Drake does that Origin wants to try to tap into? Or is there something Drake does or Origin does that Drake wants to tap into? And I think you could switch the manufacturers up. I'm just using those two as an example, but I do think about those two. Is there something either one of them does that the other one would want to tap into or leverage for a joint project? I think if CIG can come up with a good answer for that, you know, some sort of lore mechanism for why that is, then we would see interesting combinations from some of those manufacturers. On the flip side, I do think CIG tries to preserve a little bit of that manufacturer integrity. So I don't know how much they plan on doing that. Destroy says, StarJump, fair point, brother. I have a lot of respect for your ability to engage in discourse and have civilized. Absolutely. Here's the thing. It's not even a disagreement. Let's just look at it two different ways sometimes. But I don't even look at this differently than you. I actually 100% agree with you. You know, when I think about it, I think that it has been the case for a long time. I think CIG is trying to shorten that gap you're talking about, or that separation. But no, I love when people have different viewpoints than my own. Sometimes I learn things I wasn't thinking about and I'll change my mind. Happens all the time. Another design of the original Mantis, you can see the interdiction module here on the back. This is when the interdiction model was actually a large portion of the ship, and the smaller front end sort of modular cargo area was sort of the ship. And then you had these other big sections, almost the entire 80% of the ship placed on as a module, which is kind of interesting. I love the look of this. Again, I would take this any day. It does sort of look like the RSI version of the Hawk, but it has a little bit of Scorpius in there too. I would just love to see this come into the game in some way. I don't know what gameplay role this would tie into, but I could see it be a stealth ship, or maybe it's RSI's answer to the Aegis Eclipse, right? That would be kind of interesting. Another interesting design. Now this one very much feels like it's sort of pulling from the Connie, right? Maybe like an early concept design of the Constellation series. I dig it a lot though. It's a different take on RSI design. It looks very armored, very strong, very sturdy. I could even see parts of this even sort of translating into a future reconcepting of the Orion, because the Orion most likely is going to get a reconcepting. I think they'll try to preserve elements of its look, but it's definitely going to get a reconcepting. It's an old concept at this point. Continuing on. Another design here, really interesting. This is definitely a style we don't see RSI heading down. But where could we see this? I could almost see this as an Asperia ship, right? Imagine Asperia. Imagine this concept here being taken into Asperia. I think that would be really, really interesting. Instead of a glass canopy here, it would probably just be all armored, and there'd be cameras that look out. But I could see that being Asperia or something. That'd be really cool. Think like Talon, but like a different take on the Talon. I love the look of this, though. It's got very Anvil Hawk vibes, very Asperia vibes to me. I love the look of it, though. Another design. This is the one that was on the thumbnail for the video today. I think you can see the DNA there pretty clearly. This is just wild looking. This looks like something out of freaking Gundam or something crazy like that. Someone said this looks like Consolidated Outland vibes. Absolutely. It's got that Consolidated Outland vibe running through it strong. Absolutely. I mean, first off, this is almost one of the most non-Star Citizen looking ships in here. But again, you could apply it to some manufacturers. So, oh yeah, Robotech. Thank you, FN80. That's what I was trying to think of. Robotech. It looks like Robotech to me. But this could easily be a Gatak ship. This could be an Asperia ship. 100% Consolidated Outland. Absolutely. I think it could tie into any one of those manufacturers. Macross, thank you, Destroy. Macross is the other reference I was thinking of. It's got that vibe in it all day long. Really, really interesting stuff. What do you all think of the RSI Mantis concepts? I'm sure a lot of you had never even seen some of these concepts. So was that kind of a big shocker to see where CIG was exploring and what they ended up landing on? Pretty interesting, right? I think there's a lot of cool designs in here for the Mantis. I really hope CIG revisits some of these for either future RSI ships or future just Star Citizen ships in general. Again, I think there's a lot of really successful stuff in here. A lot of really successful stuff. Okay, we're going to move on to the next ship I wanted to look at, which was the Crusader Mercury Star Runner. Here we go. Early concept work for the Mercury Star Runner. This first design up here I wanted to point out, to me looks like if they were going to redesign the Genesis Starliner, this is what it would sort of look like. I love the look of that. But you can see they were playing with some really, really wild designs back in the day when they were concepting out the Mercury Star Runner. There's a whole host of ships. I think there's a lot of successful ones here. A lot of these sort of look like they would be RSI subcap ships. 5 looks like the Arastra, someone says. Where's number 5? Yeah, that does look like the Arastra. You're 100% right. Isn't that cool where things sort of come from? Looks like the Arastra. I think some of these almost look a little Perseus. This one over here looks like the Guardian. This one here looks like the Guardian a little bit. There's a lot of interesting designs there. There's some more designs being a little bit more fully featured. Now this look over here where we've seen CIG do this sort of like curved rear end here. You'll see this in other designs. I forget which other ships have this in their early concept work, but it's an interesting look and feel. Argo, I think it was the Argo SRV. So CIG's obviously played with that a little bit. It's got that sort of like Millennium Falcon rear end to it. It's just something cool I think CIG should revisit at some point. We got other ships here that sort of feel very Guardian-esque in it. And then these ones over here that look very like an updated Genesis Starliner, or what an updated Genesis Starliner may look like. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Continue on. Yeah, the Starliner will definitely be updated. That is a ship that 100% will be updated, I think, pretty heavily when it gets reconcepted. Some more looks. Again, these are called Crusader Mercury designs, not Genesis Starliner designs. These are Crusader Mercury designs. But a lot of interesting ones here as well. I do kind of like what's going on here. This here, to me, could be a really cool Asperia, like, large ship. You know, all their ships sort of look very bird-like, or the Asperia brand when they're tapping into the Tavaran designs. Look very bird-like. I could see number 24 up here being sort of a large Tavaran ship design. And then some other ones here that sort of look like modern versions of a Genesis Starliner. Moving on here, you're starting to see the a lot of interesting shapes here, even some asymmetric stuff over here in the middle. But right here on the right side, I think you're starting to see at least the road CIG was going down for the Mercury Star Runner, right? They're trying to sort of figure out that hull shape. They knew it was going to, I think they were starting to land on the idea of it being a kind of a wider ship. You can see here this circular design. This is where that like radar dish ended up on the Mercury. So you can kind of see where it was headed, right? You can kind of see the direction they were going here. Again, more shape designs here. If some of you remember back when we were doing our Argo Capital ship, as a matter of fact, let me find that real quick. Shipyard episodes, Argo Kit Bash. Some of you will remember for our Argo show, we did some silhouette explorations, okay? And this is some of the silhouette explorations that we did for the Argo Capital. And I had a few people message me and said, oh, why did you start so simple like that and not in 3D, right? Well, the whole reason I didn't start there is because when you look at how CIG starts on a lot of their older concepts, they did the same exact thing. Top-down views, studying shape language, and just it's just a really interesting place to start, right? By the way, big shout out to YouTube, 177 watching, incredible. Thank you, YouTube community. 127 watching on Twitch. Thank you, Twitch. I appreciate you all. Chumanio just followed. Thank you very much. Darth Enzo, Argus Nasty Crab. Great name. Appreciate the follows. Moving on here. Some pretty wild Star Runner designs here. Now, obviously, the bridge, the canopy here is definitely not Crusader or not any Star Citizen ship at this point, but there's still some interesting shape designs here. These kind of remind me of, I don't know all the names of Star Wars ships, but the ship that they're flying on Hoth to send the cable around the AT-AT whatever legs. Again, I'm not a big Star Wars person, but whatever that ship was, this reminds me of that. Scott R says, my wife says your voice is nice while she works. Well, hello, wife. My wife is in the next room, and I close my door so she doesn't have to hear my voice. So, but thank you. I appreciate that compliment. Please give your regards to please give my regards to your wife. I can't talk today. I'm obviously tired. I stayed up too late. Here's some of those ideas modeled out, given a little bit of 3D modeling work, nothing too crazy. It may not even be 3D. It may just be general shading work done. But you can see they were going to some weird areas. I don't know if this is like asymmetric down here. Like if that is the actual cockpit. I think it is. So you can see some kind of wild stuff there. Again, they were experimenting early on with that asymmetricness that we know did carry over into the Crusader Star Runner. Here's some additional look and feels. I actually really like this design, and it's something I wouldn't mind CIG going back to for another ship. It's a nice, calm voice to listen to. Thank you, Bunker. I could see CIG moving back to this as a... well, and I guess maybe they did to some degree for the Spirit series. I almost wonder if the Spirit series kind of looked at this as a little bit as inspiration. One thing I really do like about this, though, is this large piece here that looks like it's more design focused, but you see how it's got this paneling on it? I could see there being that paneling hiding interdiction hardware, EMP hardware, or E-War hardware. I think if CIG can make it work from a gameplay or even just role standpoint, if they could make a big awkward design piece like that make sense from a ship role standpoint, I think people would dig it. You know what I mean? If you knew that, for example, underneath there was like a giant scanner or E-War suite or quantum interdiction hardware or whatever, I think that would be really cool. I don't know. I like this design. It's different, but I like it. I like it. Next, we're moving off the Mercury and we're moving to one of my favorite ships. We've talked about it before. We're going to be moving to the Aegis Nautilus mine layer. All right, going back to another top-down silhouette view here. We're looking at ideas for the Nautilus. It's sort of a Where's Waldo thing here, but you can kind of look through and see some interesting ship designs here. None of them actually totally feel like the Nautilus. I think maybe one of the closest ones would be something like 41 here, where it's starting to sort of pull a little bit of the diamond shape for the Nautilus. There's ships here that look like baby hammerheads, probably pulling from the hammerhead design. But again, some really interesting stuff going here. Someone says 47. Oh yeah, 47. That's probably the closest Nautilus one right there. I would agree with that. So 47 here right above my head. Really interesting designs. Now, going to some of the early work on the Nautilus, it looks like the Nautilus was originally ideated to be a much smaller ship. So I think, I don't know how long this is, but if I had to guess, based off our little player model here, I think this was back when the Nautilus was maybe going to be about 100 meters or 90 to 100 meters long. The Nautilus has now been changed to, I think it's 126 meters, if I'm not mistaken. But the idea behind the Nautilus here is just a sort of a scaled down version of what we have, and a little fatter, a little shorter. We'll see some other angles of that here. Again, here's another design. I actually think they could take this concept and do a baby version of the Nautilus as a smaller mine layer. I actually think the mine laying of the Nautilus should be bumped up to size 7 mines, and then they need a size 5 mine layer that's smaller. Okay, and maybe this could be it. Actually would make sense that it would be made by Aegis, same manufacturer, but smaller form factor and stuff. However, you could take this design here, put some sort of circle motif on it, and you're getting you're starting to very much look like an anvil mine laying ship. I mean, the Nautilus already looks like an anvil ship, am I right? So a lot of people want more anvil ships. I could see an anvil mine layer, which is something that will be coming up soon when I do a Skunkworks episode where I do kit bashing and build an anvil mine layer. Right? So I don't know. I think this could be really cool. I like the design and look and feel of it. You can see here, though, much fatter ship. You can see the mine dispensers here that were sort of just drawn over with the 3D model with marker. Still, a lot of elements of the Nautilus are present here, though. We have that big chin turret, etc. They still envisioned it to be able to put mines out here, and then top and bottom, which is what the current Nautilus does. Frontal view of that design, again, reminds me very much of something that Anvil would do. Imagine these engines over here being like oversized Paladin or Asgard engines, right? Here's a wilder design of the Nautilus. I like this a lot. To me, this is, and I sometimes wonder if CIG is going to do this. To me, this looks like if Destroy says, I freaking love these concept episodes. You know, I've had a lot of people say that. A lot of people have really enjoyed these, looking at these concepts, which is great. And for those of you who don't know, I did reach out to Ben Curtis and asked him if he wanted to make a statement on concepts for Star Citizen. And you know, he rightfully said he's got to be careful about what he says about some of these, because remember, I'm sure there's some love and hate relationships with which ships get chosen to move forward and stuff by CIG leadership. But here's what he did say. He said, what I would, and I'm quoting here, I'm reading directly from the message from Ben Curtis, current art director for ships at CIG. Ben says, what I would say is there are many cool concepts that don't make the cut. There are absolutely some I would personally love to revisit and see through to release. They might just not have been quite right for their intended brief at the time. Then he says, sorry, I can't say much more, but hope everyone enjoys the stream. What he's saying there, though, is kind of interesting. He says that the concept may have been loved internally by all the people involved, but may just have not have been the right design for that moment, for that ship, for that role. Okay. But what this does is gives you a little bit of an idea of where CIG's head's at, right, when they're thinking these things up. Payne, he says, hey, Graham, with crafting coming in the future, do you think these body differences can be used when you upgrade chassis and change performance metrics? So when we can craft higher tier ships, you mean? So if we have a, let's say we're crafting a Mercury Star Runner, but we use really good materials and we craft a tier 5 version of the Mercury Star Runner, would it have different visual elements? That is a great point. I don't know if CIG is thinking that, but I think they should. And I think it can be small, more Greeble looking stuff, but I think that would be really, really cool if they did that. Welcome back, Chronic. You are looking at Nautilus, Aegis Nautilus Mine Layer early concept. So this to me looks like if Aegis decided to update their look, right? Update their sort of design aesthetics, because a lot of the Aegis stuff is really, really old. That's Messer era ship designs. Maybe if Aegis is trying to rebrand themselves for the modern UEE, maybe they could lean into some wild new design language like this. I think that would be really cool. So really interesting design. Okay, and then these are Nautilus cutaways for one of the earlier versions of the Nautilus. Okay, but you can see some of the thinking that was going on here. The original Nautilus design was by Michael Obenschneider, I think is his name. Michael Obenschneider is the concept artist for the Nautilus. But you can see here a lot of thinking was being done on the internal layout of the Nautilus. You know, where people move, flow through, all that stuff. Probably borrowing from the Aegis Hammerhead kit at the time and the Idris kit. But you can see how a lot of forethought was already going in to the flow of the ship, right? Really cool visuals. I think there's one more here of the top. This is one of the mine decks here and the drone deck. You can see the drones right here. But pretty cool illustrations. Again, everyone, if you want to look at these yourself, you can find these right here. You can see the logo. Let me pull it out. It's behind my head here. Subscribers Vault. That's where you can find it. But that is the Aegis Nautilus. Now, those of you know, I am a huge Nautilus fan. I really am wanting CIG to get to work on that ship. I think it's an important ship. I think it's a ship that we should start testing sooner rather than later. I think Pyro, I think Nyx are both fantastic systems to test the Nautilus in. Hey, there's C Daddy, CIG, C Daddy. Salute to you. Hope you're doing well. We're going through some really cool Star Citizen concepts. Just read a quote from Ben Curtis regarding the concepts that he gave me to read to everyone. And essentially, again, that quote saying that they like a lot of these concepts. It may just have not have been right for the ship role being concepted at that time, which leaves it on the table for them to revisit some of this stuff in the future. Okay, again, some really crazy designs, right? Some really crazy designs out there for some of these ships. Again, though, I'm a big fan of the Nautilus. It's one of my I would say the Nautilus is probably in my top 5 ships of Star Citizen list. It's a look thing, but it's also a role. I really love the idea of mine lane. I can think of a lot of ways to use that too. A lot of people go, I've had a lot of people say to me, well, what are you going to do with that gameplay? Why is that interesting? And I'm like, I can think of 1,000 ways that mines are interesting. We do know that CIG has worked on some mine related stuff. As a matter of fact, let me see if I have that up. Bear with me. I don't know if I do. I may not. I did at one point have some. Stand by, everyone. Let me look, see if I have this. I don't think I do. I used to have some images of the mines, but I don't have them anymore. But we've seen that they're working on some really crazy different types of mines. So I think there's still a lot of figuring out going on there. They'll circle back to it when they can. But yeah, I'm really excited for the Nautilus. I hope it goes into development when they circle back to Aegis in a big way, which I'm sure will be at some point in the future. In lore, hey, there's Griffin Gaming RPG. Griff, hope you're doing well, buddy. Salute. In lore, by the way, the Nautilus is very similar to the Perseus in that it's a really old ship in lore. I think the Nautilus is like 400 something years old. So the question would be, is Aegis releasing the Nautilus? Like when we get the Nautilus, is it the 400-year-old version, or is it what CIG is doing with the Perseus, I believe, which is where we're getting sort of a reissued Perseus, right? Where that has been brought up to sort of modern standards from like, you know, in terms of like lore, modern standards, where RSI is putting like modern, you know, consoles and modern this in it. Is that the sort of Nautilus we're getting? Or is it like an old school 400-year-old Nautilus? Time will tell. We'll see. But I really love the design. Hudson Hawk says, Grandma B, happy if you could share how you would use the Nautilus. Well, here's the thing. So yes, you can deploy minefields. Those mines can hit ships, etc. But one of the things CIG said about the Nautilus is that you would be able to see on a console when a mine has started homing in on a target, right? Or a sentry, because remember, it can do sentries as well. So think about this. If you are, let's say you've built a base or a space station in the future, right? Or you're doing a mining operation. Putting out minefields that sort of create a fence around your area of operations, regardless if the mine destroys an incoming ship or not, if you see that mine homing in on something, just like Shadow Fox says in chat, that becomes your early warning system that someone's coming in on your area, right? Someone's impeding on your area of operations. So essentially what I look at with the Nautilus is it's a fence layer. It lays these fences that if someone crosses that fence line, you are notified, you can act on it, and you can get down to business, okay? I just think that's really interesting. If there is in the future, if there's an org that's going to be doing mining operations or anything else in a certain area, sending out your Nautilus to set up minefields in and around those locations to better support industrial protection, industrial operations and protect those, I think could be really cool. I don't always look at it from a combat standpoint. I look at it as just a defensive platform. And again, just the gameplay that centers around demining areas or diffusing mines, I think would be really, really cool as well. So if your org wants to do operations in a certain area, maybe you need to send the Nautilus out with its Nemo drones to deactivate mines and retrieve those mines so that they don't destroy your fleet when you come in, right? And again, I know a lot of people will say, well, the Nautilus only does size 5 mines. I wouldn't look too much into that. The Nautilus could get bumped up in the size of mine, the amount of mines. We don't know yet, so. Bear Isle says could also make it like the U.S. Navy's submarine hunters that drop off sensor pods. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think some of the mines that we drop off aren't going to be mines at all. They're going to be sensor things. They're going to be EMP mines that if someone comes in the area would just create a giant EMP field. I think there's all kinds of stuff. There could be tracking mines where if they home in on a ship, they'll attach to the ship and then you can track that ship where it goes, right? Which would be great for bounty hunting. Right? There's a lot of places they could take up mines. Okay, we're going to move on to another manufacturer now. We're looking at some old RSI Polaris concepts. These are just really interesting. I don't think they're much different than what we got from a roll standpoint, but just sort of interesting to see the style of art that CIG was using back for some of these really, really early pieces of concept art. You can see here they were just playing with some different configurations on the exterior. I think that one's really cool. Kind of an aggressive look. Again, these are early RSI Polaris concept images here. You do see some windows. You do see some windows showing up here. It's one criticism I have of the RSI Polaris. CIG did not go back and put in windows. Back in the RSI Polaris's concept phase, if you go back to the jump point issue, there's an entire write-up about some of the developers really pushing for windows in the Polaris. I wish they would have made it into the flight ready model, but that's okay. I still love the Polaris. It's one of my favorite ships. Again, just some really interesting designs here. Nothing too crazy though, but I did want to share those. Okay, so I showed this a little bit on the last stream. I wanted to show them again here because we didn't spend a lot of time on them, but the next ship we're going to be looking at is the Prospector. And I think the Prospector has a really interesting opportunity for some of these designs to be revisited by possibly a different manufacturer. Someone was asking about 2 manufacturers coming together and doing a joint project. To me, this is MISC and Argo coming together right here. I would love this. Or maybe Gray's Market. Yeah, mostly Beef says Gray's Market. Maybe something like that. I love the look of these. If out of all these concepts, if there's one I could tell CIG to go back and bring back from the dead, it would be this one. It would be this one for sure. It just looks really, really cool. It sort of looks like like a mini sub, like a submarine. Just some really, really cool designs here. It's got the slickness of Misk mixed with all the industrial greeble work of a Drake or an Argo ship, which I think is really, really cool. A lot of people have not ever seen these before. Again, these are Misk Prospector concepts here. Here's another up close look. Again, I love these big industrial lights on the exterior. We need more of those, CIG, if anybody's watching. Anybody on the ship team's watching, we need more of those big lights, please. Yeah, just love the look and feel of this. It's essentially what it's leaning on here is two contrasting styles, right? And those contrasting styles, I think, really blend well together. Sometimes it's not successful, sometimes it is. On this particular ship, it's really successful. I love what we're seeing here. It makes sense why they did not go this route for Misk, for a Misk Prospector. But again, I think if you were to have a situation where you have a ship, two ship manufacturers linking up to create something, this would sort of be the result, right? This would sort of be the result right here. Just really, really interesting. I love the look of these. I wanted to share those again because we maybe have some new people today, and I want to make sure they saw those. Okay, we're going to look at a wild one now. Now, this next one I don't think is very successful, but Trispone, take it easy, buddy. Appreciate it. Nice to see you. Hopefully talk to you soon. Now we're going to look at concepts for a ship that has problems in game now, but I don't think these early concepts would have solved anything. Okay. I actually don't love these early concepts, but I wanted to show them to you just for a, just to be sort of comprehensive here. These are early concepts for the Misk Starfarer. Misk Starfarer. Pretty wild designs. You can see here originally kind of ideated to carry a lot more of those tanks. I think this was before CIG had really figured out the Misk design language, though. Some really interesting looks here. Again, interesting to see where CIG starts, right? This is one of those situations where they probably went in the right direction when we got the Starfarer we know in game currently. But yeah, you can see that here. Just really, really interesting look and feel to these. It's almost alien looking than anything else. You know, this was before CIG, I think, would really nail down the Misk look and feel. Okay, we're going to move off of that one. We're going to go to the next one, which I think is really cool. We're going to go to Anvil Terrapin Concepts. Anvil Terrapin Concepts coming up next. Here we go. This is back before it was an Anvil ship. This is back when it was an Aegis ship. Okay. This is the Aegis Terrapin version 1 work in progress. Pretty wild, right? It kind of does look like a mini Nautilus. I agree with that. This could be maybe a mini mine layer, but there's something about it that I like. There is something kind of cool about this design. I'm not the biggest Terrapin fan, but I really like these versions. I could see this being, I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying there's something kind of cool about this. Yeah, C Daddy says it looks like the Narcissus. Is it Narcissus? Is that what that little ship from Alien is called? The little escape ship? It does look exactly like that. I didn't think about that. It looks exactly like that. Some more designs of it here. A couple other angles. Again, the interesting thing with this, yeah, the lifeboat, right. Again, the interesting thing with this is that this was back when it was an Aegis thing. You can see it here. More angles here. Again, there's something about this I like. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there's something about it I like. Really cool. Yeah, I think they could do something with this. I think they could do something with this. It actually looks a little RSI, too. Looks a little RSI. Here's a frontal view. Very Nomad. The front view in the cockpit is very reminiscent of the Nomad here. Kind of makes you wonder if they looked at this for Nomad inspiration. I like it though. I think it's something interesting here. There's an asymmetric thing here with this. Or is that asymmetric? Yeah, it is asymmetric because this one goes out longer. At least it looks like it. Hard to tell actually from that angle. But yeah, an interesting looking design. Something I think has some interesting qualities to it. This one here, they show the different options here. This one had the cockpit in the middle. This one had the cockpit in the middle, but shrouded and more heavily armored. And this one has the cockpit in the front position with the shroud extending just behind it. So kind of cool, right? I dig this though. I love the look of these. Kind of looks a little hurricane-ish. Again, this sort of looks like an early concept of like the Aegis Avenger Titan. It's got a little bit of that to it as well. A more angular, a more armored Titan, which is kind of cool. Side view here. Again, pretty unrefined model. This is back when CIG didn't have a lot of the parts and pieces that they have now to sort of iterate on this and sort of kit bash this stuff together and with higher detail, higher fidelity. But I like the look of these. I think these are really cool. Like if CIG took another pass at these and made them really slick, I would be all about it. All about it. So some cool designs there for the Aegis Terrapin. The Aegis Terrapin. Okay. We're going to look at one more today here. We might do a part 3 of this, by the way, a part 3 of these episodes. I didn't know these concept episodes were going to be so popular, but I'm glad they are. Last ship we're looking at today is the Drake Vulture. Okay. Early designs for the Drake Vulture. This is listed here as version C. This is more like when it's a bit of a platform ship. I do kind of like this. This reminds me of that ship from Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant, that lander ship that they come down and do the rescuing on. But kind of interesting. Space Eagle. Yeah, it's kind of Space Eagle. Yes, North Surge SC. We will do more of these. I have a part 3 already planned that we're going to go into. In part 3, we're going to take a look at it's a fewer amount of concepts. We're going to be doing some kit bashing with them too to further explore them. Okay, so there will be a part 3. Absolutely will be a part 3, everyone. These episodes, this one and the first one, have been really popular, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on them. People have really enjoyed looking at this. And remember, if you want to see more crazy stuff, ship-related, environment-related, gameplay-related, make sure you become a Star Citizen subscriber. Go through that subscriber vault. There's all kinds of really interesting stuff. Support the project. Again, some more interesting Drake Vulture concepts. Really wild stuff here, but cool to look at. I do love the side entry. I wish they did that on more ships. But there you go, Drake Vulture concept. Here is one that's been a little bit further fleshed out. I don't know exactly what was happening here, or this may have been before they quite knew how these front arms are going to work, like were these going to have the beam attachments on them, etc. I'm not 100% sure, but again, early Vulture concept work. Pretty cool. I love the industrial look of this stuff. I definitely love the industrial look of this stuff. Here's another one, or another angle of the same one. Socially confused. These are too plain for Drake. I agree. They're a little too plain now, but I think CIG could have iterated on them. Here's another wild design here. This is concept A7. Again, we don't have anything from Drake like this, but pretty wild and pretty interesting to see where CIG was thinking when it came to this ship. So yeah, pretty cool. Now, again, I love the look of where they came with the Vulture. I know that everyone says, oh, the Vulture was taken from, what was it? Eve, right? There's an Eve ship that uses the Vulture design. Well, you can see here that Drake, CIG was exploring a lot of options for the Drake Vulture. They were exploring a lot of different places of where to go with that ship. Okay. So I love the look of the current Drake Vulture. I think it's a big success. I think it's actually a really popular. I would love to know the sale numbers of that ship, because I do think the Vulture is one of the more popular ships in the game, industrial ships in the game. People just seem to love it. We should do a giveaway of one soon. So yeah, that's part 2 of Lost Concepts. We will do a part 3, everyone. We will do a part 3. I want to go through a couple of those of those announcements again. Do not forget to enter into the Perseus giveaway that is going on right now. We'll give that ship away on December 2nd, day before the last day of IAE. Okay, so make sure you enter that if you haven't already. There's multiple ways to enter. For those of you coming to the streams and hanging out, I am looking at ways to give you extra tickets. Okay, just automatically, you won't have to do anything. I am looking at ways to do that. I'm sort of looking and see. I'm using a platform right now that captures who all was watching the stream today and for how long you were watching it. And I think I'm going to come up with a system to incentivize that. Also, don't forget on the first day of IAE, which is RSI Day, when the Perseus comes out, we'll be giving away one of these posters here. Obviously, replace the artwork that you see here with the final Perseus look. We'll put that in there, and that will be a giveaway poster I'll do, just a one-of-one, just like I did for the Polaris back when it launched during originally. We did a poster very, very similar to this. So yeah, got lots of good stuff coming up. Yes, so on YouTube, the way, yeah, it's capturing on YouTube and capturing on Twitch. I'm capturing it on both. So it's essentially the more you watch and hang out, the extra tickets you will get for the Perseus giveaway, 100%. That's how I'm going to run it. I'm still figuring out the exact numbers, and when I do, I'll do a more formal announcement of how that system's going to work, okay? I'll definitely do a more formal announcement of that so that I'm very clear on how it's working. I do have to get back to work, but we're going to raid someone, and I really hope my people on Twitch will stick around and show a little love for the next person we're going to raid. Those of you on YouTube, I really, really, really appreciate you all hanging out today, showing up like you do on YouTube. The YouTube community has been kicking doors down lately, so I really, really appreciate that. Again, very much appreciated. See, who are we going to okay, I know who we're going to raid today. But so thank you, YouTube. You always have been showing up, but lately for the last 2 months, it's been incredible. So thank you very much on YouTube. On Twitch, you really showed up today. We're trying to hit partner. We're very, very close. I think we're only 2 streams away now for qualifying for partner. So thank you very much. You all are amazing. I love you all. We're going to raid Lavan G Fan today. So make sure you give him a little bit of Star Jump love. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. We'll do a part 3 of this episode very soon. I'll try to get it on the schedule maybe for this weekend. Okay. So keep an eye on that YouTube schedule. I am going to update the YouTube and Twitch schedules later today. Okay. So, all right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your